the age of 11, my entire personality revolved around my love of dogs. Every single book that I read was about dogs. The Animal Arc series and the Puppy Place series were my absolute jam. Then, when I got to my preteens and teenage years, I realized that I could go to Chapters, which is like Barnes & Noble for you Americans out there, and I could get 3 classic novels for $10. I think those 2 facts about me tell you a lot about my personality. But combine those 2 things about my reading experience growing up, and what you'll find is that I did not read a lot of really classic and iconic novels of the 2000s and 2010s. Now, in my 20s, I have decided to go back and feed my inner child and read all of those iconic series and books for the first time. And I've decided to share that all with you because I know how passionate people can get about some of these book series, and I thought maybe you would find it entertaining to watch me experience them for the first time. So we are starting the series off with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm not sure what to expect. I know some of the names of people, but I don't really know that much about it. But yeah, let's dive right in, and I hope you enjoy watching me experience this series for the first time ever. This reading venture started on a road trip, which, if you think about it, is kind of perfect since The Lord of the Rings is the most iconic of all road trip novels. But I dove right in with the prologue, and I thought it was really cool having this sort of long explanation of the lore, and it even had these little footnotes in it that explained extra details, which I thought was super unique, especially since it had that sort of history book feel to it. It even had parts about the type of pipeweed the hobbits smoke, which I don't know if I needed that, but I guess it's good knowledge to have. I also found this really crazy hobbit name, Daddy Two-Foot, which probably the funniest hobbit name I've ever seen. And this iconic moment shows up where Bilbo has a party and basically just invites everyone to say, hey, I have an announcement, I'm leaving, bye, and then just disappears, which honestly, icon behavior right there. Then we have this moment where Gandalf shows up and talks to Bilbo, and we have this exchange where Bilbo says that he wants to keep the ring. And having that interesting exchange was so exciting because, like I said, I have read The Hobbit, and of course I remembered Gollum and his desire to keep the ring. And suddenly there's this moment where Bilbo turns into something like Gollum with this desire to keep the ring, and I was shocked. This part here, if I am angry, it is your fault, said Bilbo. It is mine, my own, my precious. Then, of course, I stopped for a little bit of McDonald's break and got right back into chapter 2, where we start focusing on Frodo after Bilbo has left. We, of course, have the introduction of the ring, and we have this iconic line where Frodo says, I wish it need not have happened in my time, and Gandalf said, so do all who live to see such times. Alright, good morning everybody. I ended up finishing chapter 2 and chapter 3. We see Frodo going off on his own and with Sam and Pippin. That was super fun too. I'm really excited to see where it goes with like the Black Riders, and I already love Sam so much. Sam is adorable. I'm like so excited, which makes me really, really happy. I had heard so many people describe this book as cozy, and it's so accurate. The descriptions of nature and the path they were taking was so nice and warm and cozy that even though there was this tinge of adventure with the Black Riders chasing them, it just felt so warm and comfortable and friendly. We just met Mary. Mary has now joined the crew, which is actually something that I was surprised by because I didn't know much about Lord of the Rings, but I do know that there's like quite a big, there's quite a big crew of people who are on this journey, and so far there had only been Frodo, Sam, and Pippin, and I knew that there was someone named Mary. I think there's someone named like Aragorn. I still love Sam. He's so excited to be going on this adventure, but he's also so incredibly loyal to Frodo and then the entire team basically, which I love. So yeah, Sam is my favorite character at the moment, and I'm excited to meet the rest of the crew. The next thing I realized about this book is that The Lord of the Rings has a lot of music. This was just the first of many sort of poems and songs. And then we have another character who shows up,
Aragorn, Strider, which I was so proud of because I knew it was him. Then we have another excellent moment with Sam where Sam says, and you, Fernie, he said, put your ugly face out of sight or it will get hurt. With a sudden flick, quick as lightning, an apple left his hand and hit Bill square on the nose. He ducked too late and curses came from behind the hedge. Waste of a good apple, said Sam regretfully. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Icon behavior. So something I actually forgot to mention was that we had this weird interaction with a guy named Tom Bombadil who just kind of showed up and saved Merry and Pippin and was married to Mother Nature or something. Like, who was that guy? Is he important? Because he just kind of showed up and then, I don't know, I just never saw him again. Also, please disregard the flashing lights. I sometimes like to read with TV on to have background noise.
Another member of the party that I know we're missing is Legolas. Oh, we still haven't gotten him yet. And I feel like there might be more, because I thought that it was like a fairly large party. There's someone who just came up speaking in Elven folk. So are we finally getting him? No, this is Glorfindel. Who is Glorfindel? I just read, I think it's called, what was the chapter called? Hold on. Many Meetings, which is the first chapter of book 2 in the Fellowship of the Ring. And Frodo starts his chapter waking up after passing out, which is exactly how the previous chapter starts. It seems like he falls asleep or passes out a lot. Which, I mean, like, he's basically just like a Wattpad main character at this point. Honestly, it's kind of funny. Okay, Bilbo is here now. I had no idea that Bilbo was in this book. I have read The Hobbit. I had no idea that he was actually going to be in this as much as he is.
Get to the politics part of the novel with the Council of Elrond, and honestly it was like watching a Disney Channel show where you have a bunch of cameos because there were so many names popping up that were just so familiar to me just based on what little I knew about the entire novel series. I also found this part really boring, and it kind of went over my head a bit because there was so much politics, and honestly, I will be real with you, I did not understand most of what was happening with this part.
Bilbo telling the story of how he got the ring and then wanting to go on and tell the story about his party and his leaving Hobbiton, followed only by Elrond cutting him off and just being like, good story. That's all we need to know. That is hilarious, and I love it. This book is actually very funny when it wants to be, and also very tedious when it wants to be. Legolas is here now, and he's brought news that Gollum has escaped. Has Legolas been here the whole time? Because he just showed up. This is, okay, alas, cried Legolas. The tidings that I was sent to bring must now be told. They're saying that like I know who Legolas is, and I know because I'm aware of a lot of the names. I don't remember seeing his name anywhere earlier, unless I missed it somewhere.
To this day, I am still not sure if I missed him or not, but I'm pretty sure that I didn't.
I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman Ringmaker, Saruman of many colors. I looked then and saw that his robes, which had seemed white, were not so, but were woven of all colors. I liked white better, I said. An amazing response to someone being like, I tricked you, I'm actually someone else and I'm the best, and then them just being like, yeah, I liked your old outfit better.
So this moment actually was really exciting because we got to meet the first woman of the Lord of the Rings series, which is Galadriel, who is actually kind of awesome. I actually really liked the reactions to meeting her, especially Gimli, who was just so amazed by how beautiful she was and asked for just a single one of her hairs. I thought that was really cute, and it really showed this admiration that he had despite the fact that he had to be blindfolded to come into their world, and the fact that he wasn't really held as in high regard, but he held them in that high regard.
Okay, so I just finished The Lord of the Rings, and I really enjoyed it. I know that a lot of people make the joke that J.R.R. Tolkien will spend pages describing a tree, but I found a very description-heavy writing style really comforting. It made it seem like this very cozy story, which I understand why so many people like it for that reason, despite the fact that it is very much a quest story and there are these dangers and bad guys who are coming to fight them. I will say it had a lot of songs and poems throughout, which I found a little bit annoying. I love Sam. Sam is a sweetheart, especially in the end when Frodo is trying to sneak away and go off to Mordor by himself. And Sam, knows that everyone is wrong about what Frodo is thinking about and knows that he's afraid and he's trying to decide what to do. He knows exactly where Frodo is going to go, and he refuses to let him leave without him, to the point where he'll jump into the boat and basically throw them both into the river. Aragorn is another really cool character. I really liked him. One of my favorite scenes with Aragorn is when they arrive at the place of the elves. Gimli has to be blindfolded because he's a dwarf, and Aragorn says, "We're not going to single him out. All of us are going to wear blindfolds, even Legolas." And I thought that was really, really sweet, and I thought that was really indicative of his character. And Gandalf is dead. I have to assume that maybe he'll come back. Gandalf is like a pretty well-known character. I'm surprised that he died. And pretty close to the middle of the book as well. So I'm assuming that maybe he'll come back because we never saw a body. He just sort of fell into a pit. So maybe he's alive. I'm gonna get started on the second book, which is The Two Towers.
So I just finished the first chapter of The Two Towers, and Boromir has already died. It definitely seemed like something bad was going to happen with him, considering how at the end of the last book he kind of just turned on Frodo and wanted to get the ring. But it's been one chapter and he died like halfway through it, and the other half was his funeral. I mean, my gosh, are other people gonna die? He pointed and they saw that what they had at first taken to be boulders laying at the foot of the slope were huddled bodies. 5 dead orcs lay there. They had been hewn in many cruel strokes, and 2 had been beheaded. The ground was wet with their dark blood. We're not even 20 pages in. Also, can we address the fact that the party has split up? I don't know how I feel about that. Also, I had no idea that they split up. I was under the impression they were together the entire time, but I suppose I didn't really know that much about this book going into it, or the fact that it was so incredibly dark so early on. Okay, so this is interesting. So we've met this guy named Eomer? Emer. They were asking him if he has seen Merry and Pippin when he and his men killed the orcs, and he said no. And they told him that the hobbits are halflings, and he doesn't believe in halflings. One of his writers says halflings, but they are only a little people in old songs and children's tales out of the north. That's so weird to me that the hobbits are like characters out of fiction for them. So weird from the perspective of like we've been with the hobbits this whole time, and then to have someone be like, oh no, those are from fairy tales. It really kind of sets up the way how separated they are from the rest of the world, and like how much they avoid I think they call them the big people. Okay, so the boys, which is what I'm referring to Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli as, they came across a old man in like a hood. So they think it might be Saruman because that is how Eomer described him. But I'm thinking maybe it's Gandalf. I did predict that I felt that Gandalf probably wasn't dead just because I thought that he was going to be in it longer when he was only in it for like half of the book. And surely if he's such like an important character, he would be in it longer. And also like he didn't attack them, so why would it be Saruman if it was just sort of hanging out? So I've been doing a bit more reading, and I just wanted to let you know that I was right. Gandalf is back. It also seems like the person that they saw was Saruman, which is weird. So I was kind of right in that Gandalf is back, but also wrong in that wasn't Gandalf. Okay, I'm not super far into this chapter yet, but I did actually want to pause because we have just got the second woman of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Because in the first one, we got Galadriel, and we just were in the court of Theoden, and there is a woman in white standing behind him. So I'm guessing that is the other woman, whose name, is it like Eowyn? It's Eowyn, right? Or is it Arwen? No, Arwen's a different one. There's an Eowyn and an Arwen. Is there 3 women in Lord of the Rings? It's not Elwyn, it's Eowyn. There's no L's. Or Eowyn. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce these names with the E's and the O's. I just have to laugh because of this part right here when she goes to leave and they're describing the way she looks. And then it says, thus Aragorn for the first time in the full light of day beheld Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, and thought her fair, fair and cold like a morning of pale spring that is not yet come to womanhood. And she now was suddenly aware of him, tall heir of kings, wise with many winters, grey-cloaked, hiding a power that yet she felt. Why? Why was that included? Why did this turn into a romance novel for like 2 lines? I'm not complaining. I kind of love it, to be honest. But it's just very funny to me that J.R.R. Tolkien was like, you know what this scene needs? It needs a love at first sight moment. I just finished book 3. It's been interesting so far. I'm a little bit confused because we still haven't seen Frodo and Sam at all. We're about 75% through the book almost, and we still have not seen either of them, which makes me a little bit sad. It's just interesting that we're having sort of a focus on Merry and Pippin's adventures and the boys. They're all reunited again. They all got reunited. Gandalf basically exiled Saruman. Pippin looked into this like crystal ball type thing, and I guess Sauron spoke to him through it, and he's very afraid, and now they've got to hurry. It's a little bit confusing, I will be honest with you, but it's pretty good so far. I do think I preferred the first one, but I guess we'll see what happens in the last 25% of it. Funny story. You know how I just said, where is Sam and Frodo? Where's my precious Sam? He's not been in this book and I'm very far through it. I literally just flipped the page from book 4. And we literally start with Sam and Frodo. So why was I even complaining? I'm so happy. I'm reunited with my boys. Although I suppose I shouldn't refer to them as my boys because I've been referring to Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas as the boys. So I don't want to be confusing. What can I call them? My men? The Hobbits. We'll call them the Hobbits. Well, I thought about Merry and Pippin are part of that too, I suppose. We'll just call them Sam and Frodo, I guess. So Gollum's back, which is a surprise because based on how little he was in The Hobbit, I honestly did not think he was going to be in this book very much at all, but he's in it more than I thought he would be. Well, I'm sick of him, said Sam. He's come once too often for me, and I'm going to have a word with him if I can. Only Sam would be like, oh, this creepy thing is following us. I'm gonna have to sit him down and have a stern talking to. I love Sam so very much, and I hope he does have a stern talking to Gollum. That would be an amazing scene. I actually really like Gollum's unlikely partnership with the Hobbits, but even more than that, I love Sam's absolute hatred of him and his absolute unwillingness to hide that. The way Gollum speaks is so funny to me because it reminds me of, you know that like Miette meme? Mother would kick Miette, mother would do this, and it's Gollum just being like, oh, mean hobbits would choke Gollum. Sam hates him. There's a point where he says something, I don't remember what it was that he said exactly, but there's just a line that says, Sam looked at him with distaste. And the gate master says, yes, he says so, and good Smeagol does what he asked. Oh yes, but when we get closer, we'll see, perhaps we'll see them. It won't look nice at all. Oh no, oh no. Go on with you, said Sam. Let's get it over. Like, Sam is not taking any of Gollum's crap. He's just like, okay, yeah, let's go. Wrap it up. Just finished chapter 3 of book 4. The Black Gate is closed. Few things. I forgot that Sam and Frodo still think that Gandalf is dead. There was just a very brief passing mention of, oh, Gandalf's advice was taken from them too soon. And I was like, oh yeah, they don't know that he's alive. I have said this so many times. I love Sam so much. The fact that they're hiding and Gollum says, oh, there's these like people coming, and he's like, oh, do they have elephants? Like, just completely forgets the fact that they're in danger. I'm interested to see if everyone reunites in this book, or if we're not going to see them all reunite until
The next one?
The next chapter is another episode of the Sam and Gollum hate each other show, which is hilarious, where Sam is just trying to cook food and he and Gollum get into an argument about whether meat should be cooked or not. And Sam basically is just like, no, I am an artist, I'm gonna cook this food and you're going to like it. Also, Sam got to see an elephant, so I'm happy for him. It's a good day for him. Unfortunately, the final chapters were not as lighthearted. They got really, really dark and there was a lot of action, and then we have this terrible moment where Sam and Frodo are betrayed by Gollum, and Frodo basically gets killed. Yeah, I'll just say this. When Sam is about to cry, so am I.
And that is the last of the Two Towers. That last chapter was a roller coaster. First you have Frodo dying, which I was in a lot of shock because I was sure that he couldn't have died, but you know, what was happening? Sam having to make this decision on what he's gonna do there. It was heartbreaking. Watching him realize that Frodo is dead, and then watching him realize that Frodo wasn't dead. I was very excited because I was right that Frodo wasn't dead and that he is in the last book. But also, that was quickly followed up with the sadness of Sam feeling like he abandoned Frodo. I really, really liked this book. I think I liked the first one better because in the first one, I think I described it a lot as very cozy, very comforting. It's very much like a quest novel. But in this one, the party is completely split up. We don't even see Frodo and Sam until this point here. This is the boys. This is Frodo and Sam. But it did feel really weird because it felt like a totally different book. I mean, it was book 4 versus book 3, but it felt like a very completely different part of the Two Towers versus whatever was going on here. I really liked the friendship between Legolas and Gimli. I loved them being in fights and then just having a competition of how many people they had beaten. I loved that. I thought that was so funny. Oh my gosh, Sam has my entire heart. Sam just absolutely being the most loyal and, you know, dedicated person, but also not being able to hide his absolute hatred for Gollum. And honestly, well deserved, because he did end up betraying them. Betraying them to have them eaten by a giant spider lady. I did not see coming. Also, turns out I was wrong. There are 4 women, and one of them is a giant spider lady.
The first thing I noticed about this book was how much I had really underestimated the character of Pippin. I hadn't paid much attention to him until this moment, but I really, really enjoyed him in this book. There's this moment where he's in Gondor talking to these kids, and they find out that he's only 4 feet tall, and they basically say, oh yeah, we could probably beat you in wrestling and lay you out on your back. And he's like, yeah, if I let you. I actually know a lot of wrestling tricks. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Icon behavior.
Don't believe what strangers say of themselves either. I'm not a fighter, but it would be politer in any case for the challenger to say who he is. Pippin is just full on messing with this kid, and I love it.
The next character that I would grow an immense appreciation for was Eowyn, who completely lays out Aragorn after he tells her that she can't come into battle. The fact that he tells her, no, you can't, and she says, am I not a shield maiden, not a servant? Why can I not go out alongside my brothers and fight? And honestly, you go, girl. I love you.
He's talking about, you know, oh, when people are dead, then the last defense is the homes, and you know, these deeds are not less valiant because they are unpraised. And she says this, all your words are but to say, you are a woman and your part is in the house, but when the men have died in battle and honor, you have leave to be burned in the house, for the men will need it no more. What do you fear, lady? A cage, she said, to stay behind bars until use and old age accept them, and all chance of doing great deeds is gone beyond recall or desire. Oh my gosh. Why am I not aware of this character previously? This is fantastic. This was written in like the 30s, wasn't it? I don't even know when this book came out. This is just icon behavior, especially for the time period. So we have gotten to the Siege of Gondor, and okay, The Lord of the Rings is interesting because it does have these moments that are just like kind of fun. And then it has these moments that are so incredibly dark. The enemy was flinging into the city all the heads of those who had fallen fighting at Osgiliath, or on the Ramas, or in the fields. But marred and dishonest as they were, it often chanced that thus a man who would see again the face of someone that he had known. Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Oh, my girl. Do what you will, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me. Thou fool, no living man may hinder me. But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn am I, Eowyn's daughter. In the first chapter, in the first 2 chapters, we have this wonderful moment where she tells off Aragorn, being like, I'm going to fight. Like, you're not going to stop me from fighting. And then, oh, what you are witnessing is just pure joy.
10 seconds later.
Eowyn's dead. What? But why? Ah!
10 seconds later.
She's alive. She is hurt into the death, maybe, but I deem that she yet lives. I knew it. I mean, I didn't know it. I actually had a lot of doubt. But I am so glad that she's okay. Well, after that emotional roller coaster, I decided to take a break from reading for the day. 2 other things happened while I was reading. The first being that I realized that the character of Arwen, who I thought hadn't shown up yet, has apparently been here this whole time and was just mentioned in passing once in this previous book. And the other being that Merry and Pippin got reunited, and seeing Pippin care for his injured and traumatized friend in such a caring way really made me love him even more than I already was growing to. In me she loves only a shadow and a thought, a hope of glory and great deeds in lands far from the fields of Rowan. I'm gonna cry, first of all, because I'm really worried that they're gonna kill Eowyn off. Aragorn basically saying she doesn't love me, she loves the idea of me, is like heartbreaking, especially because we were introduced to her as like the 2 of them having this like love at first sight moment. I swear I've gotta stop reading without recording myself because Pippin just straight up died. It was in the middle of a battle, and then Pippin stabs this troll, and then, if I'm understanding correctly, the troll crushed him, and he's just straight up dying. Every time I stop recording myself, somebody dies. Am I cursed? So we finally gotten back to my wonderful Sam and Frodo, and we actually got another really cool moment with Frodo, very similar to one that we got with Bilbo earlier on, where Bilbo starts to turn on Gandalf of really wanting the ring and calling it his precious, where Frodo gets really aggressive with Sam after he's just carrying the ring for himself. I really love this moment. I thought it was really interesting and a really nice parallel to that moment that we had with Bilbo earlier, and how the ring is going to corrupt anyone who gets in contact with it.
The more I read of this book, the more I fall in love with Sam as a character. The fact that Frodo is so weak he can barely walk anymore, and Sam knows that he can't carry the ring himself, so he's just going to carry Frodo instead. It's just... I love Sam so much. Thank you, Sam, he said in a cracked whisper. How far is there to go? I don't know, said Sam, because I don't know where we're going. That seems like such a small response, but honestly, I think it shows such a respect and trust in Frodo that Sam doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know where they're going. He doesn't know what's gonna happen to them. But he is so willing to trust in Frodo and trust that Frodo knows what's going on and he knows where they're supposed to be, that he is going to let Frodo lead them wherever they need to go, and he's gonna be there by his side for the entire thing. I love Sam so much, and I feel like in the 2nd and 3rd book we're seeing more and more Sam like taking care of Frodo and doing all this stuff to basically ensure this is a success. And honestly, Sam seems like more of a main character than Frodo at this point, and honestly, I'm here for it. I hope that that's the plot twist we get. It was Sam all along. I'm glad that you are here with me, said Frodo, here at the end of all things, Sam. I don't think anyone can really understand how much that line just broke me. I think I need a minute. I think I need a minute.
1 minute later.
Okay, so Eowyn has decided she doesn't want to be a shield maiden anymore. She doesn't want to be queen. She wants to be a healer, even though she spent the entire series that we've known her, and especially this book, saying, I'm not a healer, I'm a fighter. I want to go out and I want to fight and I want to defend people. And she had this such a cool moment. Suddenly, Faramir confesses his love for her, and suddenly she wants to no, she's supposed to be with Aragorn. We were introduced to them. They literally had a love at first sight moment, and you're telling me that... Huh? No, and she's supposed to be like a fighter. Not that you're any less of an amazing, strong woman just because you desire marriage, okay? That is also totally valid. It is okay to want that too. But it's so contrast to the rest of her character that we've seen so far. Am I missing something? It's like, what is happening? Like, I knew she'd been like talking to Faramir. You desire to have the love of the Lord Aragorn because he was high and puissant, and you wish to have renown and glory and to be lifted far above the mean things that crawl on the earth. But when he gave you only understanding and pity, then you desired to have nothing unless a brave death in battle. That seems so undercutting to me, and I'm genuinely really upset. And then, just the last sentence of this chapter. And Aragorn the King Elisar wedded Arwen Undumiel in the city of the kings upon the day of midsummer, and the tale of their long waiting and labors was come to fulfillment. We have seen no interactions between these two characters. Maybe we have and I've just missed it, but that just means that if it did happen, they were not memorable. I just had to Google this because I needed to know what was going on. Apparently Arwen and Aragorn had been engaged, and apparently Aragorn is 80? I don't know how I would have missed that. Was that like mentioned in passing? The way it's described when Eowyn and Aragorn meet, it's almost like he's into her as well. Did I just... Now I feel like a fool. Eowyn is approximately 24. Aragorn is 87. What is Aragorn? What is he? As a young man, Aragorn fell in love with the immortal elf Arwen, as told in the tale of Aragorn and Eowyn. Arwen's father, Elrond, forbade them to marry unless Aragorn became the king of both Arnor and Gondor. Apparently, I should have read the appendices, and that would have cleared some stuff up for me. Thus Aragorn, for the first time in the full light of day, beheld Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, and thought her fair and cold like a morning of pale spring that is not yet come to womanhood. I will admit that he does say there that like she's young. However, if you wanted to make it so that it was an infatuation and he was not into her, why would you point out him noticing her? If you want to point out the fact that she is in love with him, it's just this infatuation with the idea of him, you could just say, in that moment, Eowyn, Lady of Rohan, saw Aragorn for the first time, and then it is more one-sided. The fact that he describes Aragorn noticing her for the first time in like this very poetic, beautiful way, I think I can be forgiven for thinking that he was into her. Because I think that there are definitely remnants of that, especially after I have just found out that originally J.R.R. Tolkien planned to have the two of them get together, and then he decided that Aragorn was too old and lordly for her, basically. I think there is enough fingerprints left over from him originally going to be with Eowyn that I think it's understandable that I would make that assumption. And again, like, Arwen is barely mentioned in the books. I will stand by the fact. I'm upset by the way that Faramir talks to Eowyn. She has not really shown an interest in him previously. He basically just talks down to her and says, you weren't actually in love with him, and you didn't actually want to go and you know, fight. You were just upset because he didn't like you back. Like, way to diminish this amazing moment where she's taking control of her life and she's going and fighting this battle because that's what she wants to do. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe I'm just being obtuse here. Maybe I just can't pick up on the finer notes of things. But I'll be honest with you, it's hard to pick up on finer notes with things when you are so bogged down with so many names of people and places that you have never heard before, don't know how to pronounce, and you're really not sure where everything is. As the books have gone on, I've just found them more and more tedious. I mean, I'll watch the films after I'm done reading these and see how I like them. And I think I will. And I really like the parts with Sam and Frodo. And I definitely in this book have grown to love Merry and Pippin in ways that I didn't really appreciate them enough before. I think that there are just too many details that rely on you reading the appendixes and being hyper aware of little details being said to you.
I am actually going to defend myself even further by saying that the only appendix in any of the books that I have is in the end of the last book, meaning that unless you went and read the last book appendix first, there's no way that you would see the tale of Aragorn and Eowyn before having read the rest of the books.
I have a bone to pick. Faramir and Eowyn basically announce that they are to be married or are married, and Aragorn says, "To give thus to Gondor the fairest thing in your realm." About Eowyn. I don't know if that's how J.R.R. Tolkien talked about and to his friends. I wouldn't say that about my friend, especially if I was sitting next to my spouse who was also from the same place as them, and I said, you're giving the most fairest thing in your realm, and it's not my... Come on. That's not a thing that you say to someone you're not into. I absolutely love the hobbits coming back to the Shire and realizing that it's been taken over, and Sam is just excited that his horse is there. I love Sam so very much. I love him so much. All right, ladies and gents, I just finished up The Return of the King, which means that this exercise in reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time is complete.
If I could tell you one thing that I learned from reading The Lord of the Rings for the first time, it's the appreciation that I gained for the fandom. During my 2 to 3 months of reading these books, I got a lot of suggested posts on social media with Lord of the Rings jokes, and one of the common ones was how fans cannot watch the movies without going, "Oh, did you know that in this scene?" Which I found very relatable because that is what I'm like with The Princess Bride. But I think it's very telling that the entire fandom is so dedicated and knowledgeable about this interest that it's such a well-known thing that Lord of the Rings fans have to tell you the special facts they know. It's basically impossible to be a casual fan of this series because it is so expansive. The world is so fleshed out that if you want to understand the intricacies of it, you need to deep dive into the lore. I see this trilogy as a read twice to get the full impact experience. Once to get the basic story, and then a second read through to gain those little bits of lore you missed on your first read. There's genuinely something for everyone in these books. If you want political and war drama, you got it in Aragorn's storyline. Do you want a wholesome and loyal friendship? You've got it in Sam and Frodo's parts. How about some sarcastic and funny side characters who have genuinely so much heart and these wonderful, deep emotional moments? May I introduce you to Merry and Pippin? How about some amazing, strong women and these amazing, powerful moments that they have? Honestly, I do have some complaints about the lacking page time for that part, but I'll take what I can get, and what I've got is some pretty epic moments. My favorite part of these books was definitely the hobbits, specifically Sam and Frodo, but I did grow to love Merry and Pippin as well. But there is so much packed into these series that the others may have completely unique favorite parts that are completely different from everyone else. I see myself reading this book series again. I see myself watching the films and really enjoying them. And even more so, I see myself becoming a long-term and hardcore fan of this world and these characters. But for now, I'm taking a bit of a break and reading something a little less heavy. And to all you Lord of the Rings fans, I hope you enjoyed me experiencing this world for the first time, and I can't wait to join you all in Middle-earth again.